right, good morning everyone. My name is Stephen Graham and this is my video for UnboundEd. So welcome to the Standards Institute. Please set up your name tent and then take a moment to complete the keynote debrief. And then go ahead and download the Standards Institute app. Download the math or the ELA standards app. And yeah, please settle in and introduce yourself to your table friends. My name is Stephen Graham, and I will be your facilitator today. And I would like to show you a reaction in a bag, and we're going to be talking a little bit about this reaction throughout this presentation. So I have my safety glasses on. I'm going to take a plastic bag, and inside that bag, I'm going to add about a spoon and a half of something called calcium chloride, and I'm going to put it on one corner of the bag, and in the other corner of the bag, I'm going to add about half a spoon of sodium bicarbonate. Okay, so they're somewhat separated. I'm going to add some indicator solution. And this indicator solution will change color based on the acidity or basicity of the products in the bag. I will add some water, about 20 mils of water. I will seal the bag. I will shake the bag, and I will ask students will do the demonstrations themselves, normally in class, what they feel, what they see. As we can see, the indicator solution has gone from a red to a yellowish. We're generating a gas inside of this bag. You can also see the bubbles. And the idea here is, well, what is the role of each of these chemicals in this chemical reaction, in a bag? We will come back to this a little later in the presentation. We'll leave it here for now. Our objectives for today. So we're going to identify how educators can use the GLEAM instruction hypothesis to disrupt inequitable beliefs, practices, and policies in their spheres of influence. Okay? GLEAM stands for grade level, engaging, affirming, meaningful. Our agenda for today, setting the context for today's presentation. I want to talk about structural racism in our schools. I want to also talk about equity and the GLEAM hypothesis, something called spheres of influence. We'll have lunch, and then we'll have an afternoon session. Today's norms. So I want you to look at these norms, and these are just ways for us to stay engaged, take responsibility for yourself as a learner. Please honor the time frames, right? We're going to start on time, end on time. Be active, be a hands-on learner. Use technology to enhance your learning. Strive for equity of voice. Contribute to a learning environment which it is safe to not know. Not everyone knows everything, and that's okay. And finally, identify and reframe deficit thinking and speaking. The unbound vision. So I want you to take a moment and just read the UnboundEd vision to yourselves. Okay, and then turn and talk to your neighbor. What resonates with you? What resonates with you about this unbounded vision? Take a moment. Okay. Awesome, thank you very much. Let's keep moving. Let's talk a little bit about the unbounded approach. Our learning is grounded in the intersection of standards, content, curriculum, and equity, which is essential for closing the opportunity gap caused by systemic bias and racism. So take a moment, what do you wonder? What do you wonder about? And what do you notice? Okay, so I'm going to give you about a minute, and I want you to tell me, based on what you see here, this approach for unbounded, what do you notice? What do you wonder? So take a moment and write down something you notice about this particular visual, and something you wonder about. Okay, let's have some audience participation. Yes, thank you. And what do you notice? Thank you. And anybody wonder? Yeah, what do you wonder about? Awesome, thank you. All right, so today we have 5 charges. We're looking to adopt a aligned curriculum. We are here to attend to the language of the standards, talk about race systematically, examine bias and its role in our work and learning, and commit to adaptive change. So we're going to leave today here committing to adaptive change. I want to talk a little bit about 4 agreements for courageous conversations. 1, please stay engaged. We must stay engaged. Speak our truth with mercy. 3rd, there are going to be times where we will experience discomfort, and we must expect and accept that we will not reach closure. Support yourselves and others by asking questions, right? Ask lots of questions, take notes, stretch yourself, right? Stretch your minds. Again, this idea of a little bit of discomfort is very important. All right, I want to talk a little bit about 3-dimensional learning. Okay, so at your tables, with paper and pencil, I would like you to draw for me. I'd like you to draw for me, what do you see or hear other students and the teacher doing? In your classroom, what do you see yourself doing? Or maybe a model science classroom. What does a model classroom look like with respect to what students are doing? What the teacher is doing? Okay, so take a moment and just draw for me what that looks like. So think about, again, the classroom. Maybe it's your classroom, but a model classroom, what does it look like? What are students doing? What's the teacher doing? Is there anything on the walls you see? Anything, maybe there's something that's strung along from one side of the room to the other on a clothesline. What's on the wall? Any manipulatives that students are able to see and to touch? And finally, how do students feel, right? Do students feel like they belong in this classroom? Okay, so take a moment. All right, go ahead and share with your neighbor. Share your drawings with your neighbors. What does this classroom look like? What do you see? What do you hear? All right. Anybody willing to share what they drew? Yeah. Excellent. Yeah. What do you see? What did you draw? I love it. Great, thank you. Okay, let's keep moving on. So the traditional model, right? I remember when I was a kid, this is how I learned science, right? So basically the teacher basically pushed off content onto us. Any labs that we did, which were few and far between, were prescribed. A lot of recollection of facts, a lot of memorization. I don't recall ever having to discover or inquire about topics, right? And then, oh my goodness, all those tests, always at the end. And so I only knew what I knew at the end, which was always too late. All right, so I want to talk a little bit about our overarching goal. Okay, so go ahead and take a moment and read the overarching goal of our framework. Question for you. Do you feel you might already do any of these in your science classroom? Do you feel that you're doing any of these in the classroom? And are there any that you do that you would like to improve? Okay, so just look at the goals there and think about what goals that you already do and goals that maybe you want to do better, right? Things that you would like to do better. All right, so I want to look at this visual. This visual is really powerful. So here we have this shape, this polygon, and where student learning is at its center, right? And these are the 8 different vertices. Where do you belong? Where do you see yourself? Right? Where in this 3-dimensional shape, where are you now? And where do you want to be? Okay. Go ahead and turn and talk to your neighbor. Where do you see yourself and where do you want to be? Right? We're teachers, but where do you see yourself in this goal of student learning? All right, what is 3-dimensional learning, right? So this is the crux of what we're here to do. We're looking at 3 very huge ideas here. Disciplinary core ideas. Okay, so these are, for example, our subject areas, right? The physics, the chemistry, biology, earth science. Science and engineering practices, like how can we use these ideas to make a process by which we can formulate a question and answer that question with thoughtful experiment design, data collection, analysis, and presentation to an audience. And finally, cross-cutting concepts. What are some big ideas that spiral through the different subject areas? Cause and effect, patterns, energy, right? Okay, so what I'd like you to do is we're going to get in groups of 3, or we're getting in 3 groups, sorry, and we're going to take this reaction in a bag, which we did earlier in the presentation today, and I want each group to look at one of 3 approaches, right? So the first, so let's first talk about science and engineering practices, right? So, excuse me, how will students design a lab to determine the role of each chemical? How will students design an experiment to determine the role of each chemical? Another group will look at disciplinary core ideas. What key concepts or ideas does this activity promote? And finally, cross-cutting concepts. What connections to other subject areas can be used with this activity? Okay, so go ahead and let's get in 3 groups, and each group will explore the reaction in a bag from 3 different lenses. Okay, thank you very much.